And we are live. Good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. We're doing a Saturday episode today. Swally Swede with the CUSF. We've got Michael Stone with us today, and then Trevor from Slamfire Radio. And as always, we got Dave, the president, with us. Say hi, Dave.
Howdy, howdy. So, I just want to take a moment here to acknowledge our sponsors. Big shout out to the Cabela's Outdoors Fund, our headlining sponsor. Really happy to have them on board. In addition, we have Beretta, Vortex, Stittsville Shooting Range, and Safari Club International. So, big thanks for all those organizations for sponsoring us and really lowering that barrier to entry for the shooting sports at the university level. Just some quick updates in terms of CUSF news. We got our fall semester charity draw wrapping up on the 23rd. So go to our web store for your chance to win a pretty sweet little Saratoga B22. Those we had two new clubs pop up this last week. So we got one out in Atlantic Canada, out of Halifax, and one out in Brandon, Manitoba. So nice to see those guys get rolling and add to our community of university sports shooting clubs.
Nice. That makes us coast to coast officially, right?
Yeah.
And how far north do we go? Do we have that coast as well?
No, not quite yet.
We'll get there. We'll get there. Okay. So, Michael Stone, who are you?
Okay, so I've been involved with the CUSF for a couple years now. I am the club's manager, or club's director, I suppose, is my official title. So I help manage all the clubs and connect them with the CUSF. And beyond that, I started the UBC club a few years ago. That was really how I got into this. And then in terms of shooting sports, I compete in IPSEC and 3-gun. I shoot a little bit of trap and skeet and other stuff on the side. So that's kind of my background with handguns for this topic.
Nice. And Trevor, you're Slamfire Radio.
Yeah, I've been one of the founding hosts of Slamfire Radio since its inception way back in. We were trying to figure this out a while ago. It's going on a decade now, pretty much. We're the longest running pro gun podcast in Canada, and right now one of the longest running pro gun podcasts, period. We've got almost 400 episodes in the can already. And everything I'm going to say now is former, because I've recently had to resign from all of my positions because I'm currently enrolled in a master's program. But former match director at the Rescue Gun Club and pistol section coordinator. So I was, while I was doing that role, I was the match director for SummerSlam, which is one of Canada's premier level 3 IPSEC matches. I was also the training coordinator for IPSEC New Brunswick, where I would teach RO courses. I'm an IPSEC range master, and I also would mentor and train new black badge instructors, as well as facilitate black badge courses myself, put on IPSEC style shooting courses with my former co-host Matthew McClatchy. I've done some training on my own as well, taken a bunch of classes with Canadian production champ Alex Burdett, and right now the only shooting I'm doing is IPSEC, if and when there are IPSEC matches happening, either indoor or outdoor. Our outdoor steel challenge matches will be starting up in the Fredericton area here soon. They're just very fun, informal, club level style steel challenge matches where there's some static steel plates that we shoot at just to keep the cobwebs knocked off during the winter months. So I'm looking forward to that starting here very shortly.
Well, holy fuck, that's quite the resume.
I kind of condensed it.
Yeah, you came highly recommended from our new friend Kelly from last episode.
Kelly
Slamfire.
Never heard of her.
Oh, that Kelly. Okay. So we're doing a dry humor episode. Oh, okay, gotcha.
It's the only humor I have.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Well, you're an East Coaster, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah. So
on the comment section here, Nikki says SummerSlam best IPSEC match in Atlantic, Canada.
Some would say Canada, but who am I to argue with Nikki?
I know, right? So today we're talking about handguns, which I think is kind of the end of the spectrum when it comes to firearms ownership. Most people, we were talking last episode about rifles, and usually that's where most people get into firearms, is with a rifle. Now, the first couple of episodes we've done so far has very much been the entry level, getting into guns, getting licensed, buying your first gun. We had a gun store owner for that. We had a firearms instructor on for the other part. So for the people who don't know, IPSEC is what? Michael?
IPSEC, it's a competitive shooting sport that uses handguns. There are a number of different divisions that you can shoot depending on what kind of handgun you own and what your budget is. That's really a big part of it. Obviously, Trevor knows probably 10 times more than I do. I've just been shooting IPSEC for a couple of years. But yeah, it's definitely yes, you have a question, just open to it.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm just playing with a new feature. I'm saving that question. Please keep talking. Okay.
Yeah, IPSEC is it's a great sport. It's dynamic shooting, so you're shooting on the move. It's got a somewhat complicated scoring system. You have to take a course beforehand called Black Badge. Trevor is an instructor, again, much more knowledgeable than I probably am. So yeah, there's a bit of an upfront cost, which makes it kind of challenging for some people to get into. But it's really rewarding, and it has a huge skill curve. Like the starting from a new shooter to somebody that's been doing this for decades is really incredible to see the difference.
Yeah. So I'll let Trevor finish in a minute. Dave, do you want to field the question here?
On our events open to non-students. So I guess that depends on the club. Or whether it's a CUSF event. For CUSF events in our competitive stream, they're only for students if you're shooting in our shotgun or rifle competitions. But yeah, some of our clubs, they'll have like a range day that's open to the public. Like high school students will come out, or alumni, just people, general members of the public that want to come connect with some of the newer generations. So it depends, like not our competitions, but potentially some other events.
Nice. Thank you very much. Trevor, so if you want to carry on where Michael left off on the IPSEC and the Black Badge.
Sure. So IPSEC stands for International Practical Shooting Confederation. It's the international governing body that provides us with our guidance and direction and rules and our documents for our programs with regards to specifically our officials. So you got your International Range Officer Association, IROA, and they provide the documents to the National Range Officer Institutes. And then those organizations nationally contact the provincial organizations, give them the course materials, and they put on those materials. The sport of IPSEC is shot in almost 100 countries around the world. We have different disciplines. We have the handgun discipline, the rifle discipline, the shotgun discipline. There's also mini rifle, which is an IPSEC game for 22s. And then there is actually a discipline called Action Air, which is a IPSEC rule book for airsoft in countries where you're not allowed to actually own civilian ownership of firearms. So predominantly here in this country, although IPSEC shotgun and IPSEC rifle are catching on, we actually had our first IPSEC shotgun nationals occurred in Ontario maybe last year or the year before. But no question, globally, the dominant discipline is handgun. Mm-hmm. And in the handgun discipline, there are multiple divisions. And the division is the type of gun that you're using and where it fits. Your division is your gun, your category is your age and your gender. And so you've got the production division, which is basically the gun is unmolested, unmodified factory gun. Now, originally would have been intended for like Glocks and M&Ps, but IPSEC is a game. It's a sport, and the rules are written in such a way that manufacturers build a gun to suit the rules. So you end up with a race pistol that is thousands of dollars in the production division. So you could have one of those fancy CZs or fancy Tanfogos, or like what my sponsor, Calgary Shooting Center, provided me with, a Phoenix Redback. And it's based on the CZ platform, but it's $4,000. So the production division is not necessarily for newbies or cheap guns. Just because it's production division doesn't mean that it's Glocks only. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Last episode on the rifles, we talked about that as well. And they had the production, the stock rifle, but there was also a dollar amount to that. But I guess there's no such thing here.
No, what there is here is that the companies have to produce X number per year to be on the production list. Yep. It actually has to be on the production list. And there's very few modifications can be done to the gun, and almost all of the parts, with the exception of the sights and now even the trigger group, have to be OEM. Other than that, so the only parts that are not allowed to be OEM is the trigger group and the sights. Everything else has to be original equipment manufactured. And then you've got production optics, which is the same gun with a red dot on it. Then you've got your standard division, which is pretty much 40 caliber pistols. Mm-hmm. And they're pretty much always based on a 1911, 2011 style platform. Single action is another big determining factor of the standard division, where production is either striker fired or double action, single action. Like your CZs, your Berettas. We've got after that production optics, standard, and then open. No one cares about revolver, but I guess that's still a thing. There's some more dry humor for you.
It's classic too. 1911.
Classic, yeah, of course. Yeah, I forgot about classic. I was a classic shooter for years until Calgary Shooting Center said, "Hey, what do you think of this new fan?" Actually, I saw it. I was like, "I'm going to need one of those." And sure enough, they sent it to me, and all of a sudden, I was a production optics shooter. I kind of said it on a whim. I hope they're not listening, but it's been good to me. I won the provincial title with it, and so I still have my classic gun. But those are only two divisions I have left now is actually classic and production.
That's still a lot just for handguns, but that is a lot.
Money wise, you mean?
No, well, it's so many different.
Divisions. Yeah, there are too many divisions. Production optics light, which is really big in Europe. So that's like basically for the plastic guns.
I think in Canada they haven't recognized that yet, though.
That's the beauty of it, Michael. It's really the divisions that are offered are at the discretion of the match director. A lot of people don't know that. I, as a match director, would never offer production optics. I think it's ridiculous, personally. Production optics light, sorry. Yes. I think it's ridiculous. I'm not listening. If you want a participation award, go somewhere else. I'm not going to give you an award because you decided to register in production optics light and you were the only one. No, you bring your ass over to production optics and shoot like with the rest of them, or I don't care. I'm not offering it. So so a lot of people in Canada don't bother offering production optics light. Again, it just dilutes the field. What's the point of having a division with 2 or 3 guys at a club match, right?
Absolutely.
And this is run. Sorry, I just wanted to. I want to get us out of the trenches a little bit and just a little bit more general. So this is this more common in certain parts of Canada, or is there like a national competition? Are there provincials to qualify? How does it work?
Every province has a section, and to shoot IPSEC matches, you have to be a member of your section. If I want to shoot IPSEC matches in Nova Scotia, I have to be a member of IPSEC New Brunswick. It's anywhere. It's the same thing. Like people who join IPSEC Ontario can shoot in BC. IPSEC matches are only open to IPSEC members.
So you join the IPSEC organization
in your province.
Okay.
And before you can do that, you have to take Black Badge.
Yes.
Okay, so I was going to hand it over a little bit to you, Michael, because Trevor's always been doing this since the Stone Age. Michael, how long have you been IPSECing?
About 2-3 years now. Again, I'm afraid to say something wrong because Trevor's here.
That's right.
If you were on my show, I'd correct you. Here, I'll just kind of smile, take note, move on.
All right. Yeah. So Black Badge, it's a 2-day course. So all you need to show up is a pistol, about 6 magazines, about 300 rounds of ammo. Course costs maybe $300 for a weekend, around there. And that also includes your first year, usually, of your IPSEC membership.
Yeah, Michael, you're not saying anything wrong, but a caveat to that is although it's a national program. A black badge, by the way, is only in Canada. Other countries don't have a black badge. Some are starting to come on board. They're copying ours. Even though we're all provided with the same black badge material, every province seems to administer the program differently. So when you're talking about 2 days, it's a minimum amount of hours. Sometimes they stretch it. The way we do it here is it's coursework Thursday night, Friday night, or sometimes a really long 6 hours on Friday, 10 hours on the range on Saturday. A level 2 match is required, and there's debate over that. Again, how the program is administered varies from province to province. So if you're listening and you're in BC, it's going to be done one way. If you're in Ontario, it's going to be done another way. If you're in New Brunswick, it's going to be done another way. Just because it's supposed to be done the same way, or it should be done the same way. There's a lot of varying opinions on that too. The point I'm taking a long time to get at is check with your local IPSEC section. Typically, they have a training coordinator or a black badge coordinator, and find out what their specific requirements are, because they do vary from province to province. The amount of time you have to put in when you actually get the black badge, and how many rounds and all that good stuff varies. I like our system. We go classroom Friday night, qualifiers on Saturday, level 2 match on Sunday. Here's your pin. Here's your certificate. You're no longer my problem. Go.
Yeah, that's good. I think we should discuss this kind of from a student's perspective, though.
Yeah, so starting out, Michael, you got into IPSEC because...
Yes, so I had a friend named Edward who was into IPSEC, and I discovered, I searched far and wide, and in the university of about 40,000 people at UBC, I think there's maybe about 2 or 3 people with a black badge. It's a very small number of people, especially people between ages, like 18 and 22, which are mostly university students. It's a very small number of people, because there's a lot of stuff that you have to have access to make it happen. Like, number one, you really need a car. It's a hard thing to do if you do not have good access to transportation. Then it's a chunk of cash. You need about $1,000 on the low end. That'd be tough even. You need, I'd say, like $1,500 at least to really get into it, to buy yourself a half-decent handgun, the holster setup, a case of ammo, plus the 2 or 3 day course. So it is an investment. And then on top of that, you don't want to have your black badge course be the very first time you shoot that pistol. You want to probably put at least 1,000 rounds through it before. The instructor that taught me said that you want to be able to hit a 8.5 by 11 piece of paper at about 25 yards consistently. If you can do that, you're probably good enough to start shooting IPSEC. Other small things like just learning how to load and unload your handgun, clear jams, that kind of thing. I've definitely seen people who show up and have issues with that, which is a little embarrassing, I think.
Yeah. No, the black badge course it's not a driving course. It's the driving test. You need to know how to shoot before you get there, right? Correct.
Yes. It's a certification course, not a training course. A lot of people say, "Well, I already know how to shoot." Good. Come prove it. Right? Yeah. We're not there to teach you to shoot. We're there to certify that you already know how to handle your firearm safely and can be accurate with it, basically to prove that you're competent enough to shoot IPSEC. Now, that whole philosophy is changing, because back in the day, IPSEC was used to give people who were already into handguns a place to use their handgun. But a lot of people now, believe it or not, get their license just so they can go IPSECing, right? And so the philosophy of the purpose of the black badge course at the national level, the conversation is happening about, we are not retaining people because we're not actually training them. They're supposed to come to us knowing how to shoot, and they don't. And then they struggle through a match, they suck, they get discouraged, they quit. So maybe
that's the thing, right? Like, results is motivating, and being crap at something is really disheartening. Speaking about go ahead.
So for the black badge, I guess, to clarify for our audience, is it kind of just like a certification to guarantee that level of safety during the match, like an IPSEC match?
It's two-part, theory and practice. There's a written test, an open book written test that you have to pass. So you have to show knowledge of the rules, and you have to show competency with your handgun and accuracy.
Yes, and the third part too is actually going to a match, shooting the match, and not being disqualified, which sounds easier than it actually is. I have seen people DQ themselves on their very first match. it's a tough thing.
And that's typically what, safety issues?
Yeah, safety issues. There's common ones. Breaking 90 with a handgun, or reloading with your finger on the trigger, that kind of thing.
Or moving. Right. Moving is a big one. They forget to take their trigger finger off the trigger and out of the guard while moving. Like that one and the two Michael said are what get the newbies every time.
Dave, any handgun experience?
Just casually plinking with my 1911. I mean, last time I was out with Vancouver, actually, Michael taught me pretty much everything I know in pistols. So.
Nice.
I went for a range day at Poco. That's good.
Yeah.
Oh, up on the what's it called? The Poco District, blah blah blah. That one there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the Poco Quilt District Hunting and Fishing Club. That's my home range up on Burke Mountain.
Yeah, mine too.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, I just joined. I just joined this fall.
That's good. Okay, we should meet up.
How far are you guys from Abbotsford? Sorry, Dave.
No, go ahead.
Well, for me, I'm in North Vancouver. Abbey is a little far away from me. I have been there. It's a beautiful range, and I would love to be a member if it wasn't like a 2-hour drive.
A lot of the BCIT guys head out that way. I know they carpool out there when they go shoot.
They do. Yeah. It's a great range. They're expanding it, which most ranges can't say they're doing.
They can only go one way. They're kind of stuck against a mountain, but you're right. Absolutely amazing range. When I go to Vancouver, normally pre-COVID, I would go to Vancouver every 2 years, and North Vancouver is where we stay. And I usually take a trip out to Abbotsford every time I'm out there, because that's Rod Giltaka's range. So we usually find our way out there. But yeah, it's a haul from North Vancouver.
It's a day trip. Absolutely.
Yeah. Another great one I'd mention too is the Thompson Mountain Sportsman Association in Pitt Meadows.
Yeah,
they're a great little range. They're in a very narrow valley, which allows them to have excellent backstops on both sides, so you can have ranges facing both directions.
Nice.
Those were the two I was considering, and I ended up joining the other one.
Yeah, but they have a really awesome IPSEC group, and they used to have a really great speed steel event about once a month, but some sort of internal politics have shut that down. But anyway.
Cool. We had a question come up here. I'm going to go back to. This is from Matthew. Who'd like to field that one?
I can do that.
Go for it.
So generally the instructors will have a home range. So you can just go on Google and look up, say, your city and black badge course. You'll probably find someone, and they have a deal with a range that you'll have to go to them. I suppose if you had enough people, if you had maybe like 6 people, you could get them to come to you, but that'd be kind of a hard thing to do.
Yeah, typically it's it's one of those things, varies from province to province. I would always recommend starting with the section, the IPSEC BC or the IPSEC Manitoba or whatever, and they often have a schedule of where the classes are going to be and when and how to register.
That's true. Go to the IPSEC website. They have all the information. Yes.
Awesome. All right, so let's move on to the tool of the trade, handguns. Dave, you mentioned, what was it, 911?
Yeah, 1911.
Close enough.
Sorry, 1911.
Yeah.
1911.
Yeah.
So I had my follow-up joke already lined up. I was going to say that's very much the SKS of the handgun world.
Oh, geez.
I disagree.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, it's an early design, so in that sense, yes. But in terms of the accessibility, in terms of price, I would disagree. Yes, you can buy a $400, $300 Norinco 1911. That's a hot piece of garbage. But anything decent is going to be a lot more than that. So in terms of, maybe we're talking about like entry-level handguns. Is that kind of where we're going with this?
Well, I want to hear more about Dave's piece of garbage.
Yeah, it's a Norinco, exactly the model. But no, I don't know. She shoots all right for $300 fucking price range. So I mean, I've had some points, but I mean, I don't.
I mean,
like
maybe
the metal is good, right?
Yeah, like I worked part-time at a gunsmith in the evenings, and we started tuning them up. We'd take Norinco 1911s and tune them up. And I mean, I tuned one up for my godson so he could get an IPSEC, and that thing runs like a top. So the thing is about the Norinco 1911, you want to recommend them for a beginner simply because they're affordable, but the 1911 requires a little bit of knowledge on the user's part or access to someone with knowledge, because out of the box they often need a little bit of tweaking and tuning, especially the Norinkos, because they're made by child labor in China, so they're kind of a crapshoot. If you can get your hands on one and check it out ahead of time, look, it's 1911. It's been around since, 1911. There's no secrets left. Like, there are guys out there that know everything about that pistol inside and out, and how to make them run flawlessly. So I used to be an avid 1911 hater. I was team Glock, and now it's like, yeah, I still own a Glock because Glocks are like assholes. Everybody has one, but so are 1911s. They're just, you can get them to run, and they can run great. And you can't buy a Glock for $300, but yeah, you can get a 1911 for $300. You can buy reliable magazines. They'll cost you some money, and that gun will serve you well in IPSEC. And the thing about 1911s is, because it's been around so long, so many people make them. There's the aftermarket support for the 1911 is phenomenal. But the other thing is, there's no mil spec for 1911. So the parts, you buy any connector for a Glock, it's going to drop in and fit. There's no fitting required. There's no gunsmithing required. You can't say the same for 1911. You have to know what you're doing, especially when you start messing around with springs. It could be dangerous. So in that regard, they're not necessarily a good beginner gun. But a Norinco 1911 is so bloody cheap. Buy one if you have access to some IPSEC guys that know how to work on them.
Yeah, so it's maybe talking about sort of affordable entry-level handguns that we actually would recommend to a new student shooter. A few that come to mind for me is the M&P 2.0. I've seen lots of those out there. They seem to work well. CZ, all across the board, makes great guns. The Shadow is incredibly popular. Shadow 2, a little bit more money for production division. They make some polymer guns too.
So amazing.
Yes. Great ones. The Chinese, Turkish stuff, you want to be careful with. Definitely kind of a mixed bag in terms of quality.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what gets me about those Turkish ones and the Chinese polymer ones is just, are you going to be able to get parts?
Yeah.
So you're much better off if you want to go polymer, get the Glock, get the M&P, because you're going to have access to parts and warranty and stuff like that. The Turkish Gursans and stuff, super cheap. But you better look into whether or not you can get replacement parts if something happens. Is a shotgun warranty at that sort of thing.
I think Trevor's working on getting himself a Glock hat here.
Nah. No, I got all the Glocks I need, which is just one, and it's locked up in the bedroom.
There you go. So Michael, what handgun did you start with?
So I started with the CZ Shadow. Great gun, really enjoyed it. It's put maybe 10, 20,000 rounds through it, and I've had great success. I guess that was kind of the first big step, was getting the pistol, and the next step really is getting the reloading press, which is something that we could also talk about. If you're going to shoot IPSEC, if you're shooting high volume handgun, the next step is to start making your own ammo, because that's really your biggest expense. I've spent, a couple $1,000s in pistol, but I've spent much more than that on ammo.
One of the BCIT guys, he's big on reloading as well. We should almost have a reloading episode. How about that, Dave?
Certainly could. Yeah.
Save some money. Save some money for the starving student shooter.
Yes, especially now. It's hard to find presses, and it's even harder to find well-priced 9mm. But if it's about $1,000 to put down to get a decent reloading press in the low end. So it is not a big investment, but it pays off in the long run, most certainly. And you can make ammo that's perfect for your gun. In IPSEC, there's something called power factor, where they actually measure it's the velocity times
weight divided by 1,000.
Yes, that's correct. And so if you have a chronograph and you can load your own bullets and vary your powder charges, you can tune your ammo to be just perfect. Some people cut a little bit too close. I'm sure you've seen that at matches.
Especially when you go from one end of the country to the other. Oops. You're either super hot or not making it.
Yeah. That's another issue. But that is sort of a IPSEC specific thing. If you're just starting out, getting a handgun, don't feel like you need to go out and spend $1,000 in reloading gear.
Yeah, and every once in a while, I picked up a secondhand square deal. So it's a Dillon press. It's handgun only. It uses proprietary dies. It's auto indexing, no case feeder, but it makes better ammo. Well, it doesn't make better ammo than my Dillon 650, but it's more consistent and problem free. Like I can routinely load 1,000 rounds of 9mm on my square deal without a single hiccup. I don't know if I've ever loaded 1,000 rounds on my 650 without a hiccup. It seems like the more you add to the press, the more likely you're going to have a stoppage of some kind. So I ditched my 650. I wasn't reloading. Like 650, if all you're going to do is handgun, is overkill. If all you're going to do is handgun, just get yourself a Dillon square deal and don't look back, because for handgun, it's really all you need. You can make, if you take your time, you can make 100 rounds in 11 minutes. The Dillon 650 is faster when it doesn't stop. But if you average it out, if you're not getting stoppages on the square deal, you end up making more ammo faster on the square deal. You tune it specifically to the ammo for your gun, and that's it. You don't look back. You can just literally leave it set for years until you have to change powders for some reason.
That's great advice, definitely.
So those were a lot of words. One I did understand was 9mm. Is that the preferred caliber for a?
I would say it's definitely the most. It's definitely the most popular caliber in all the handgun games, whether it be IDPA, USPSA, or IPSEC, simply because it's the minimum allowed. You can't go lower than 9mm, and it's the most affordable. It's at the point where I can't even be bothered to bend over to pick up 9mm brass. When I was shooting 40 and 45, I'd be like pushing old ladies and children out of the way to get my brass. But with 9mm, I'm just like hobos bend over for 9mm.
Even worse than that, 38 Super. I see people hunting the IPSEC match for their 38 Super cases.
Oh God, yes, yes. Like,
they even put like little they have a little Sharpie and they'll draw lines on them on the sides. They know like this one's mine. Don't take this case with the purple squiggle on it.
I used to mark my 40 cases because I started with a Glock 35. Why? Because in at the Restigouche Gun Club, everybody was shooting standard. Everybody was shooting Glock 35. It was one of those things. It's like, this is all we know, so this is all you're going to know. The same. Everybody was reloading on a Dillon 550, and I'm like, but the 650. And they're like, no, you don't need it. Okay, I get it. You guys
550. It's a great press.
It is a great press. I believe the 650 was a greater press. I ended up getting that, and then all those guys who had the 550s came over to check out my 650 and were putting their 550s for sale. But like I said, I've since gone backwards to the square deal because I'm not progressively reloading rifle anymore. So I don't need a 650 anymore. So anyway, so to answer your question in a long-about way, 9mm. It's just it's the cheapest ammo that we can use in our game, right? So,
is there any? Go ahead, Michael.
I was going to say that's definitely a consideration too for some other divisions in IPSEC. So if you think like, oh, I want to get into standard. Don't go into standard thinking you can shoot 9mm because you're not going to be competitive. You're kind of forced to shoot 40. And if you open is probably something most new shooters wouldn't even consider. And yes, some people do shoot 9 major, which is its own crazy little thing.
I did for a year. Good time. Greasy little thing is right. Yeah. No, there's no need for 38 Super anymore.
No, but you're living on the edge though. Right.
Are there any competitions for the 22? 22 is something that came up a lot when we talked on the rifle episode.
Handgun, no.
Handgun, yeah.
Speed steel.
Yeah, not IPSEC, but yeah, speed steel for sure. Like if you're going to show, so specifically IPSEC, no. But yeah, there are. We use we have an annual steel challenge match, and we follow the USPSA steel challenge rulebook. It seems to be the most standard. It's very, very popular in the United States. There's the nationals every year, and the thing is, like, it's the same 8 stages. They're published. You can watch them on YouTube. You can learn the fastest way to shoot every stage, smoke and hope, and roundabout, and outer limits, and speed option. Anyway, it's a heck of a lot of fun. And yeah, there's definitely 22 rifle and 22 pistol divisions in that sport. That's probably, I don't know, Michael, what you think, but I think Steel Challenge is the gateway drug to action shooting.
Yes, absolutely.
It's safe because there's no movement. There's 22, so it's affordable, but you're getting that action shooting itch, and you're getting introduced to handgun shooting sports, and it's the next step after that will be either IDPA or USPSA.
That's kind of what I was asking, yeah, because it seems like it's quite the jump from not shooting competitively handgun to shooting competitively handgun. So I was wondering if there was a middle ground, maybe not directly IPSEC, but like you mentioned, there are other organizations.
Yeah, you jump in the Steel Challenge with a 22, and then the following year you do Steel Challenge again with a 9mm. Well, now you've got your holster, your mags, your belt, your mag pouches. If you buy that kind of gear for, you don't need that for steel, because if you have to do a reload in steel, you might as well just pack up and go home. But if you get like IPSEC or USPSA style belt, holster, mag pouches for Steel Challenge, then you've made your entry into IPSEC or IDPA or USPSA that much easier.
Yeah, so definitely, if there's any students out there listening, I would just say that, say your budget is only $500, you can get yourself, a Browning Buckmark, 1,000 rounds of 22 and a few mags, and boom, you're shooting Steel Challenge.
No black badge required, so you're saving money there.
Yeah.
Probably don't have to join anything other than a gun club, because when you join IPSEC, you pay your black badge, and then, as Michael said at the onset here, typically your black badge fee also includes your first year's membership in your provincial sanction or your provincial section. But if you just want to shoot Steel Challenge matches, typically they're club level matches or outlaw matches. They're not governed by anybody, so you don't have to join some association on top of all your other fees.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, to bring this full circle to the CUSF, that's actually what we're looking at implementing in the next year as a Steel Challenge CUSF division, to get students kind of into that, if that's the road that they want to go down. So
the steel targets can be expensive if you're going to get AR 500 style ones. Like we had X Metal basically copy some American company that produces sets of Steel Challenge targets, all the 10-inch plates, the 12-inch plates, and the rectangular plates. Cost us $8,000 to get all 8 stages at once. Some people just buy enough to make 4. They shoot the first 4 in the morning, stop for lunch, use the same steel, rearrange it to make the next 4, and they do it that way. But if you want to get just 22 grade steel, then you're only ever going to shoot with rimfire. It would be a lot cheaper.
Just cardboard, basically.
It doesn't ding very good, but yeah.
What would be a good entry level 22?
Oh, like Michael said, Buckmark.
Buckmark, okay.
Yeah, so something I would say specifically is, do not buy a 22 pistol is based off like a 9mm or larger handgun. It's usually a bad idea, especially like 9mm or 22 1911s, anything like that. Bad idea. Of course, somebody out there is going to be saying, "Oh, I have one and it runs well."
Yeah, I had good luck with my GSG, but I know some people not so much.
Yeah, so like a dedicated 22 handgun, like the Browning Buckmark or Smith & Wesson Victory, they have a very light. You can't really call it a slide, but the piece that moves is very light and very small. It's just enough weight with the spring tension to move with a 22, whereas 1911, you have to move that whole slide. There's way more surface area for things to go wrong.
And that's made out of some lightweight material. Obviously, it can't cycle a full weight steel, government size 5-inch 1911 slide. There's no way. So they make it out of basically pot metal, aluminum, and they crack and they don't last. Sig Mosquito slides cracking. So Michael's 100% right. And it's something that was designed from the ground up to only ever be a dedicated 22 pistol. If you look at the pros shooting Steel Challenge, typically a match will be 2 days. They'll all shoot rimfire on day 1 and then go to their full power handguns on day 2. And they're not shooting, like he said, a gun that was supposed to be a 9mm converted to shoot 22. They're all shooting something like a Volquartsen tuned dedicated 22 with a red dot on it or what have you.
Yeah, there's also the Ruger Mark series, which the Volquartsen is based on. That's a good one too.
So you mentioned red dot. So getting into the competition shooting, or carrying on with competition shooting, you've got your production model. You want to move up. What are some things that you should look at adding next to your gun if you want to advance in IPSEC or similar organizations?
I mean, personally, I would call 22. People call them training wheels. It's a little bit of a cheater move, in my opinion.
Well,
Trevor might think different.
training wheel. I'm quite happy with my 22. I'm looking. I've got rifles only right now, but I talked to a friend of mine a year or two ago about some recommendations for 22 handguns because I'm going to try and keep it all organized. And the only caliber I'm going to move up from now would probably be the 6.5 mil Swedish. But for my everyday firearms, or however,
so I would definitely suggest not to start with a red dot handgun. I've seen people make that mistake. You want to learn how to shoot iron sights first. People always say the same thing about rifles, and then go on to shooting a red dot. You want
to, like Kelly brought up. That's what we talked about on the rifle episode. We want to learn the fundamentals. You want to learn the shooting stances. It doesn't really apply with handguns, but we talked about the use of tables when you shoot rifle, and you don't want that to become a crutch. You want to learn the fundamentals, and then
I disagree. Absolutely, the fundamentals are more important for handgun than anything else because you don't have any supports whatsoever. Trigger press is more critical in a handgun because it's, a bad trigger press on a handgun is going to show on your target a lot more than a bad trigger press on a. So, yeah, fundamentals are important in all of the marksmanship games for sure.
I say grip and trigger press are the number one and number two things for shooting a handgun well. That's really everything.
And by grip, I remember I had to qualify on a handgun when I worked for Corrections Canada, and I remember the slide bit me a couple of times because my grip was off, and that's something you do once or twice, and then you start focusing a little bit more on technique and
that's right.
Slowing things down a bit more.
Yeah, that's more of an issue with older guns too. I'm trying to think like a high power, for example. You hold it too high, that hammer is going to get you.
Yeah, this was P2000 Smith & Wesson, I think.
Okay.
And that's a service handgun for Corrections Canada still, I believe. But yeah, no, it bit me a couple of times, and it's like I don't like that. Let's see where it can change.
Handgun. When we shoot a handgun, we're concerned with two things: accuracy and speed. The accuracy comes from sight alignment and trigger press, and the speed comes from grip and stance. And those are your fundamentals, and then you can break them down a bit more. But in general terms, accuracy and speed, accuracy, sight alignment, trigger press, and then speed, grip, and stance. If you're not holding it correctly, then it's going to recoil more than necessary, which is going to slow your shooting down. You want to shoot quickly. You don't want the gun to recoil any more than absolutely necessary. And to control that recoil is going to come from how you hold it and how you stand.
When I was a mechanic for a little bit at Harley, and one of the guys that helped train me said, first get good, then get quick.
Yes. We say the same thing in IPSEC. Well, we say safe, good, fast.
Absolutely. Another good IPSEC saying is you can't outrun your misses. No matter how fast you go, if you're not getting the hits, your score is not going up.
That's right. And you can't miss fast enough to win. Doesn't matter how fast you blaze that stage. If you didn't hit anything, it just looks great on Instagram. You know who's some of the Instagram people just post their videos. The guys winning post their videos and their scores.
Yeah. Certainly.
Good thing to look for. All right, so this is a question I usually ask a lot of people here. What's your next gun? What's your next gun, Trevor?
Handgun or anything?
Handgun specifically. Or whatever you currently... I don't know if you have a version of Kelly's $4 million rifle.
No.
But if you or whatever gun you currently shoot the most, if you have any accessories you want to bolt onto that.
No, both my IPSEC pistols are completely tuned to my needs. If I was going to get another handgun right now,
competitively or just collector or whatever,
it would be competitively. Like I had a whole pile of guns that never got shot. I got rid of them all a little while ago, and I just completely got down to like the core. These are my competition guns. These are my hunting guns. That's it. All the safe queens are gone. If I was going to get another gun right now, it would be a limited custom extreme. It's a standard division IPSEC pistol in 40 cal made by Tanfoglio. It is the most ergonomic, comfortable gun I've ever owned. The one that I got was an early run that was tuned So Eric Raffel was a world champion who shot for Tanfoglio, and he had an extreme line of optional parts for the gun. So you'd buy the gun, buy his line of parts, put them on the gun. Then he got the brilliant idea, well, why don't we put all my parts on the gun now and sell it for $1,000 more? We'll call it the extreme line. And he would actually tune the guns. So I got an early one. I'm a tinkerer. Everything I do, I modify. I customize. I love working on my stuff. Doesn't matter whether it was my archery stuff or my guns. I always customize my stuff. It's the only thing I've ever owned in my life that out of the box I was like, it's perfect. There's not a thing to do to it. Oh wait, it's got a green fiber optic on the front. I prefer red. I prefer green. That's literally all I did. I've bought this gun, sold it, bought it back again, sold it again, and the guy who has it now in Newfoundland, he knows, like, when you decide you don't want it anymore, let me know. I'll buy it back again. So
we had a well-traveled shotgun as well on the shotgun episode.
Yeah.
Was that your start out? Is yours, Dave?
No, it started as Dean's.
It's Dean's, and then went off to keeping it in the family, I guess.
Yeah.
Michael, same question.
Yeah.
I don't want to cut off Dave.
We're getting a little lag here. Did you have something, Dave?
No, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so Michael, next handgun.
I'm pretty happy with. So I have a production setup and I have a classic setup. So production is a Shadow, and the classic is a Dan Weston 1911 in 9mm, which I really enjoy.
Mine's a Dan Weston too, PM9.
Yeah, they're really great guns.
Oh yeah.
So I feel like I don't need any more IPSEC divisions. 2 is more than enough.
Yeah.
So I kind of thought about getting a revolver and maybe 357 just to kind of reload some hot 357 loads and just blast steel at the range.
Be that guy at the range.
Yes, to be that guy.
Everyone off.
Yeah. So that's probably next for me.
Yeah. So what should I get? First handgun. Looking at 22 mil.
22. I would say Buckmark. I've owned a couple of them. Really enjoyed them. The Ruger is also a great choice, but you definitely want to get one of the newer ones. The older ones are a total nightmare to disassemble. So yeah, Browning Buckmark, $300-400. You can find something decent. I would highly recommend getting one with a fiber optic front sight if you can. I find that makes a huge difference in how well you can shoot them. Because one is just like a black sight, like black front post and black back is terrible. Yeah.
Sorry, so it was the Browning. What Ruger was it?
So there's a Ruger Mark IV.
All of them, yeah.
Mark IV.
It's a new one. And what makes them really nice is it's just one button at the back and the whole top of the slide pops off. Whereas the old ones was this crazy like levers and pins that you had to, I've heard stories of people trying to return their Ruger Mark III or Mark II to the store in a bag. They were like, look, I have this gun. It's in a bag. Take it back. Because they can't get them back together.
Cool. I'll have a look at those. I like having options because then I can read and compare both.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm looking at buying something new, I type in Ruger Mark IV. Like I'd go to Google, type in Ruger Mark IV versus, and I'll see what Google auto populates, see what everybody else is buying.
The only thing I would add to that would be if you knew you were going to get an M&P, or you knew you were going to get a Glock, or you knew you were going to get a 1911, you can get the 22 version of all of those, and the ergonomics will be the same. The holsters will be the same. But again, keep in mind, they may not necessarily run as well as these purpose-built 22s. The M&P 22 is not bad. I have no experience with the Glock 22. The 1911s, the GSG, I got lucky. I know some people not so much. My 1911 22, the GSG, it took 1,000 rounds of hot ammo, and then it would run anything. But the first 1,000 rounds were definitely needed.
I like the idea of purpose built. If I buy a 22, it would just be a recreational one. If I ever do get into IPSEC, I'd buy something bigger specifically for it. But right now, it's just recreational shooting. We're coming up on 50 minutes. That's a lot of ground covered. IPSEC seems to be the dominant handgun sports organization, right?
Globally, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Certainly. There's also 3-gun, which we didn't get time to talk about, and it's kind of
we're not in a rush here. I think we just lost Dave.
Okay, we can just very briefly touch on it because 3-gun is in a bit of a hard spot right now in Canada. unfortunately. But
Yeah. It came up when we talked on the shotgun episode, I believe. So it'd be good to carry on here.
Yes, you'll see that CGN right now is flooded with 3-gun shotguns. Everybody's trying to get rid of them. It's a little bit of a sad thing. I personally watched a shotgun that I put almost $2,000 into being sold for about half that.
I don't understand why people were dumping them when, okay, you lost your rifle, so you still got your pistol. So we got 2-gun matches.
Yeah.
We got IPSEC shotgun taken off. Why are you dumping your 3-gun shotgun when you could just join IPSEC and start shooting IPSEC shotgun? The thing is, again, to the black badge, they wanted to develop a shotgun black badge because some people had no IPSEC experience, didn't have a restricted firearms license, but wanted to shoot IPSEC shotgun matches. So they were like, well, go take a black badge. Well, that's a handgun course. You want me to take a handgun course so I can shoot a shotgun? What is this, government run? This makes no sense. So anyway, but for those of us that have black badges that shoot 3-gun, like just take your 3-gun to a shotgun match or an outlaw 2-gun.
So what would be the big difference between an IPSEC and an IPSEC competition, or whatever you want to call it, and a 3-gun competition?
Okay.
Rules, sanctioning.
Yeah, there's tons of difference, but if we're just focusing on handguns, which is just the focus of the show. So in IPSEC, we're talking about like 5-6 different styles of handguns, whereas in 3-gun, there's really only 2. So you have what's similar to an IPSEC open pistol, where you have compensators and red dot sights, kind of an anything goes type gun. And then you also have sort of like all that stuff minus the red dot. So it could be similar to like a IPSEC standard gun, or even a lot of guys are choosing the production guns from IPSEC in 3-gun, which is a great option.
Well, it's good. Again, keeping the kind of a cheaper alternative here.
Yes.
Yeah. In the 3-gun rules that I've seen typically don't divide the manual from the semi. If you're shooting an IPSEC shotgun match, they do separate them. You run a pump gun, you're in the manual division, and then there's manual standard. And then if you run a semi-auto, then it's semi-auto, and it could be semi-auto standard or semi-auto open. But out here in 3-gun, whatever shotgun you bring, it's going to be based on whatever pistol is in your holster. If you have an open pistol, doesn't matter what your shotgun is, you're shooting an open. I don't know, Michael, if it's been like that for the 3-gun that you're shooting.
Yes. Yeah, we're shooting based on 3-gun nation rules in BC.
Okay. Yeah.
So there was a really great match called the Lone Butte BC Redneck 3-gun shoot. Sort of a 3-day match up north in BC, which was a ton of fun until it got shut down. But hopefully it comes back.
How come it shut down? COVID?
Yeah, it was supposed to run this year. It was sort of a 1-2 punch of like COVID and then the OIC. Yeah. And it's like, what are we going to do? I don't know. It's hard to imagine. Maybe you could run 3-gun with a 22. I have seen some people trying to do that. But it does, I think, take a little bit of the fun out of it. I don't know.
Yeah, I won't do it. Like if I got to run a 22 in a 3-gun match, I'm going to find another game to play.
Yeah, it's a tough sell.
I mean, there are lots of clubs that have put on 2-gun matches in the past. Like when we would do a 3-gun match, not every stage used all 3 guns. Initially, yeah, but our matches were taking like 12 hours to complete. So we cut back on the amount of stages, and then we would cut back on the amount of stages where you actually used all 3 guns in the same stage. So we'd have like a shotgun rifle stage or a shotgun pistol stage or a shotgun rifle stage or a shotgun only stage. So the transition into 2-gun, to me, seems like a no-brainer. Grab your pistol, grab your shotgun, and let's go have a 2-gun match. And what I like about shotguns in a 2-gun or a 3-gun is typically reactive targets. A clay pigeon that goes up in the air, clay pigeons that you bust, steel that you knock over. Shotgun's very versatile. You can do slugs on paper, you can do buckshot on paper, you can do birdshot on steel and birdshot on clay. It's the only firearm that we take to an action shooting game where you have so many different targets that you can use.
Certainly. Yeah, I think the only downside, at least I've heard some match directors that are hesitant to run a pistol shotgun match is because they feel that the shotgun takes more time to reset. And really...
It sure does.
Yeah, which is a bit of a challenging thing. So that's something, again, to new shooters, if you haven't shot 3-gun before, IPSEC, usually you're looking at maybe 6, even maybe 7 stages in a day, something like that. three gun, maybe 4 or 5 stages in a day.
Yeah.
They're really slow. That's kind of the downside of three gun.
Yep.
Yeah.
All hands on deck.
So I've got a follow-up question here. I'm going to split it one for Trevor and one for Michael. I like very much having an antagonistic view on discussions. So if somebody were to get into handgun competitions, what kind of a person would choose IPSEC? And that's for Trevor.
Someone who likes formal, structured, organized, something with
it's bigger. It's a bigger organization.
It's prestigious. It's international. It's in more. IPSEC is in more countries around the world than any other shooting sport, any other action shooting sport. Like you can't compare it to the shotgun Olympic sports. But as far as action shooting games, IPSEC is the dominant sport on the planet for action shooting games. It's been around forever, and again, it's very structured and organized. Officials are trained to a standard. It's a sanctioning body. If your club holds an outlaw match and there's an accident, best of luck. We've had people injured in IPSEC matches. Quick and dirty little investigation. All of our officials are trained by an international standard. All of the competitors are trained and had to prove that they're competent to be here. And it's like it checks all the boxes, and then they just leave you alone. Mm-hmm. And a man died in BC. IPSEC is moving on. If someone gets killed at an outlaw match that wasn't sanctioned by anybody, you could lose the whole club.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was unfortunate.
Incredibly so.
A few years ago. I probably don't want to go too deep into that, but I mean, we should say that it was the guy's own fault. It's not like somebody shot somebody.
No,
exactly. In fact, he was incredibly experienced.
We'll say it was accidental.
Absolutely. Yeah. The gun got caught up in a prop and he lost control of it, and while trying to regain control, unfortunately shot himself. It's just a 1 in a bazillion fluke accident. The lesson, the takeaway there was guns are drop safe. If you drop your gun in a competition, take the DQ, let it hit the ground. The chances of it going off when it hits the ground are far less than it going off if you try and catch it and hit the trigger.
So, so Michael, what kind of person would go for a 3-gun competition?
3-gun is definitely a little more sort of fast and loose than IPSEC. The rule set, so there's some American organizations that create rule sets. A lot of matches here are kind of outlaw, and they just sort of make up their own rules. So it can vary a lot in terms of what guns are used. Some people even allow PCCs as well, so you can shoot 9mm rifles.
Pistol caliber carbine. So it looks like a rifle shoots 9mm bullets or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Yes, so that can be allowed in 3-gun as well, which is pretty fun.
Well, benefit for the 9mm reloader.
Absolutely, that's something I really enjoyed as well. I had a CX4 until I do not have a CX4 anymore. It's definitely a bigger investment too, which is challenging. There's a lot more things that can go wrong. It's lower pace. It's a lot more of kind of shooting the shit too, I find, which is kind of fun at matches. IPSEC, a lot of people can be really uptight, like they don't want to share the stage plan maybe.
Oh God, yes. That's the one thing I hate. Range lawyers.
Yes, those kind of people who are like, oh,
way
look
too
at the rules.
serious. Yeah, way too serious.
See, right there, I'm almost leaning more towards 3-gun just off of that.
Yes.
More laid back, no question.
Couple of years ago, I used to compete in Highland Games, and in Highland Games, even though you're competing against these guys, you'd always see people out in the field giving each other's pointers
because they're drunk.
Well, there's that too. There's a lot of carryover between the Highland Games and I think a lot of rugby players, which is also a sport I enjoyed when I was younger. But it's very much guys are out helping each other, even though you're competing against them. You're doing it it's for fun, right? Even if you place last, you're still out doing the same stuff everybody else. I like that. Anything else with 3-gun? Sorry.
I guess it's just there's more stuff to learn. I definitely wouldn't suggest people start with 3-gun because you really have to know all that IPSEC stuff to begin with. Plus shotguns. Now you have to learn how to reload shotguns on the clock. It's like quad loading. That's a whole other crazy thing.
I miss my Typhoon.
Yeah, and then there's like mag-fed shotguns, which are sort of not a thing anymore. It's a bit of a mess. So yes, 3-gun, if you can get into it, if you can find a club that's doing it in Canada, would highly recommend. But just be aware that now all of a sudden you're needing like $3,000, $4,000 worth of gear instead of maybe like $1,000. So it's
it's crazy.
So most people go IPSEC, then 3-gun instead of the other
You'd
route.
be surprised. A lot of guys in Alberta, because they don't want to jump through the IPSEC hoops, they got the oil money. They go 3-gun right out the gate, man.
Okay.
And but yeah, you got a $2,000 rifle after you put an optic on it. You got a $2,000 shotgun. You got a $1,000 pistol. You got to feed all three of them. You best be reloading. Even I was reloading shotgun, pistol, and rifle. It's the only way, unless you're wealthy,
Reloading the shotgun, that's a dedication.
We got a future host or future guest recommendation here from Kelly.
Well, I was going to do it too. I was going to say, don't talk about 3-gun with us. Wait and have Adriel on, but we went there anyway. But Adriel's the man. Like, that's his. Adriel is to 3-gun in Alberta what I am to IPSEC in New Brunswick for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I just thought I'd throw that in there, a little bit of promotion as well for our fellow podcast. So I just finished my beer, which is usually in my queue. We just rolled over an hour as well. Is there anything else either of you guys would like to on the topic of handguns?
If you need one, go to the Calgary Shooting Center.
There you go.
All good.
All good, Michael. All right, I'm going to give a final shout out to our sponsors because we lost Dave at some point. So I just want to say thank you to the Cabela's Outdoor Funds. This is when you go to Cabela's and you round up your shit. I just had one beer. When you go to Cabela's and you round up your purchase, that goes to the Cabela's Outdoor Fund, which is something that they use to help organizations such as ours. We're also sponsored by Beretta. Beretta, they've been around since 1526. Vortex, veteran owned from America, joined the Vortex Nation. The Safari Club International, and also the Stittsville Shooting Range. I want to thank all of those for helping make this podcast possible. I'm going to hit end here at podcast. Please stick around. I'm going to talk to you guys in a bit. And I just want to say thank you to all our guests and all our viewers for chiming in. Have a good night, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.